right, so we're going to get started with session 3 now. So thanks to our session 3 silver sponsor, GHD. And our moderator for session 3 is Catherine Gentile. And Catherine will introduce our speakers and do the Q&A, and I'll get the presentation set up.
Catherine Gentile, I'm with WSP. I'm a senior environmental planner and a team lead for our transportation environmental impact assessment group, and I'm really thrilled to be here. I was commiserating with a few people that it's kind of ironic that I'm helping with the advancing digital technologies session, because as I get older, I'm that person who's like, help, I don't know how to work this. So my staff who are here can know that for sure. So I'm hopefully going to be able to get things up on the screen for you. But our first presenter today is Raina, and she's coming from us from AECOM. And she's going to be presenting us today about sustainable infrastructure planning and delivery, a digital transformation. So really excited to hear about all of that and lessons learned. So Raina, over to you. No problem.
Yes, at some point in time. Amazing. Hi, everyone. How's it going? Lucky you guys get 2 stories back to back. I'm going to introduce myself right off the front before I get into my story, because I want you to know where I'm coming from. What lens am I seeing our discussion through today? My name is Raina Carmichael, and I've been a GIS specialist within the consulting industry for over 16 years. What does this mean? This means that I am intimately familiar with the movement of data on all your projects, the silos that can be created, and the version control that absolutely plagues us all. All right, let's kick things off. If we go with the adage that a picture tells 1,000 words, our impact and assessment process is really straightforward, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's a simple process. But then we start to pull back the layers of what's required in each phase, and step 1 becomes 21 steps, completed by one of 6 possible stakeholder groups. And then we throw in timelines, and we start to understand the difference between legislative timelines and overall project timelines. And honestly, now I'm just overwhelmed. When you think about our Canadian process, how does it make you feel? Confusion, frustration, anxiety? Many of you are at the forefront of this process, while others, I'm sure, can identify with the intensity. This is our reality today. These 5 simple steps actually lead us down a labyrinthian path of intricate processes. This is not just a linear progression, as the picture would make us think, but it is a web of decisions, reviews, feedback loops, and each phase has its own unique process challenges and problems that we need to address. We all feel this weight. It's palpable, it's real, and it signifies the challenges that each one of us face in this field. So we're going to spend the next few minutes together unpacking this feeling. We recognize its origins, we understand its implications, but the crucial question remains is, how do we address it? To do this, we need to take a step back from the feeling, back from the process, and frankly, back in time. There's an intrinsic understanding in our industry that the workflow that my grandfather is demonstrating in this photo is long gone. The technology has changed, yes, but it's more than that. It's a testament to how the process, the perceptions, and the approach towards our work has evolved. I look at this photo and I see manual field data collection, I see manual survey equipment, and I see no PPE. We can assume, he's wearing gloves, it's true. We can assume the results of this day led to a simple hand-drawn map, maybe a 5 to 10 page typewriter report, and that report may have passed through the hands of a few locals only to be approved a few weeks later. Today's tools empower us to gather vast amounts of information and data at speed and accuracy that would have been unthinkable in my grandfather's era. And to keep up with all this data, we've seen the advancements in computer memory, processors, graphic cards, and interfaces allowing us to use this data to build intricate designs, to the point where we now need systems to talk to other systems because our data has gotten so big we can't handle it. Everywhere we look, technology has fundamentally changed the way that we create and consume data. You know, we don't pick up newspapers anymore. We read apps on our phones. We don't watch 90 minutes of the news. You watch 91-minute videos. Yes, it is safe to say we have come a long way from the days of floppy disks and dial-up modems, but there's a consequence to the advancement of our data. A trade-off, if you will, of how far we have pushed this boundary. The consequence is, ironically, we have more data. So, before we can even begin to tackle the process problems we have in our impact and permitting workflows and address that feeling we were all having at the beginning of this story, we need to solve the problem that we have created for ourselves with our data. But guess what? Solving the data problem opens doors to solving some of these big process problems. To make sure we're all on the same page going forward, let's walk through a few of the more typical process problems we face on our projects today. So remember that 5 to 10 page typewritten report? Well, a typical EIS this day and age is 600 pages, maybe 1,000 with appendices. And with so much technical information spread out across so many different systems and processes and formats, it's really hard to forge collaboration. And not only do we have way more to report upon, but we have more people who need to see it, to engage with it, or to simply understand it. You know, posting a PDF to a website and making it AODA compliant does not take away from the fact that it is still 1,000 pages of text. Understaffing agencies may not be a broad process challenge in Canada, but navigating through technical documents to correctly interpret the information leads to frustrating delays, regardless of the number of people you have to review them. And similar to the increase in demand for public input, we are now responsible for keeping up with multiple agencies involved throughout the lifespan of our projects. And this presents challenges when it comes to coordination of information. We have reports that may need to be reviewed by 16 different organizations, and compiling and controlling all of that information is a challenge on both sides of the project. Next, the lack of transparency. So, you know, whether this is in the time it will take to provide a response to a report, or whether it's a stakeholder who submitted a question but has no visibility on how that gets answered. We lose public support on our projects if we're not seen to be communicating. And when that happens, we have the threat of lawsuits. So whether it's led by external sources to prevent the project from happening, or because of delays in our existing systems, you know, the culmination in a number of these process problems can lead to lawsuits. So, how does solving the data problem help us with these process problems? Well, in front of us is a really simplistic representation of the data challenges that I've been speaking about. All our data, in all its different sources, diverse formats, multitudes of channels, all converging into a PDF delivery. Which raises the question, with all the advances in the tools and technologies that we have at our disposal, why are we still tethered to a PDF? The reality is sobering. To tailor our outputs to fit the confines of a PDF, we inevitably compress it, we flatten it, we truncate it, we strip away all the attributes of our data. And this approach not only does a disservice to the richness of the data that we started with, but to the stakeholders who depend on it. You know, a static PDF can't capture the essence of our findings when our findings are now lifelike representations that we can view in three-dimensional spaces. And as the divide between our data and our ability to communicate it gets wider, we're going to struggle to convey the correct information if we do not keep up. It ultimately comes down to this. If we cannot convey our data properly, we risk delays in permits, report approvals, and project construction. The value of our work lies in the accurate interpretation, and if that's compromised, our efforts come into question. For AECOM, with decades of industry leadership in transportation and environmental planning, we are not blind to the challenges of articulating data on our projects, but we were really sick of them. So 6 years ago, we started to think of a solution. Our mission started by embracing all the changes in our data, because they're not going away, and focusing the vision on the full project lifecycle. So trying to pick out any aspects of the process that weren't keeping pace with our data. And what we quickly realized is that in our rapidly changing landscape, anything that stays static is no longer sufficient. So with this knowledge in mind, we embarked on a journey to reinvent how we deliver our projects. We sought a solution that could not only keep up with our data, but could be flexible and adaptive to our ever-changing needs on a project. We also thought about the industry as a whole and recognized that there was a value in this tool being completely agnostic to AECOM. And with all this in mind, we developed Plan Engage. This platform serves as a dynamic tool to unify all our project data on a single interface, enhancing accessibility, simplifying data management, and streamlining communication. By hosting the platform on Azure, Plan Engage offers the scalability and security essential to AECOM's projects. And through a one-of-a-kind partnership with Esri, we can now link ArcGIS Online directly into our interface, unlocking a new dimension of project planning and management. In a nutshell, Plan Engage isn't just a new tool, it's our vision for the future of project management. And I'm really excited to show it to you guys today. So let's take a look at how Plan Engage can resolve the data process challenges we've been discussing. I think I have to press this twice. All right. Here's a look at our vision. Instead of asking agencies and stakeholders to navigate through hundreds of PDF documents and reports they have to download from a website, let's invite them to lean into their preferred method of communication and scroll through sections of our reports like they do the apps on their phones. We want the community member curious about our project to open our site and instantly understand the project impacts that they feel are important to them. Through Plan Engage, we can transform intricate data into interactive visual stories through comprehensive maps and immersive multimedia and three-dimensional models. By dynamically linking our maps to our reports, we've significantly reduced the risk of misunderstandings that often arise from static PDFs. This integration not only ensures that stakeholders receive the most up-to-date information, but it also paves the way to enrich our data with additional attributes. It's like we're embedding all of our appendices directly into our text. This means a more comprehensive understanding of our projects directly at the fingertips of those who need it. So from simple comments embedded into a report to very complex review workflows, digital technology allows us to be more efficient when it comes to concurrent review processes. Track your report as it's being reviewed by different agencies through interactive dashboards. Download all the comments into the project database, or take a look at the historical snapshot of your project, all the while knowing that your report is in safe hands as it winds its way through our internal QMS process. Foster collaboration and transparency while minimizing the need for back and forth review cycles by inviting individuals and stakeholders into your report. Permission levels allow teams to edit, comment, or view the platform, depending on their username, at any point in time during the project lifecycle. Use PlanEngage to strategically deliver one digital version of a report to 2 different stakeholders while you sit back and collect all the responses within one document. Or go even further and tailor the experience by sending only a few relevant chapters to specific stakeholders for review. Version control is not under control unless everyone is working off of the same page. And when the review cycle is done, and the history of your review can be logged in a database for legal requirements, your report can stay digital for maximum impact, or it can be printed using a PDF report template and time-stamped for the record. Do not let the name fool you. This is more than your average community engagement platform. It's about project engagement, from the start to the finish, for us, but also for our clients. In our quest to shrink the communication barriers between our projects and our communities, we need a dynamic system that can be an internal portal for everyday use, an external project website for public participation, or any variation in between. By including easy onboarding instructions and pop-ups whenever somebody enters the site, to pin-dropping functionality built right into the platform. Supported by fully customizable survey field forms linked to different types of information you want to gather. PlanEngage can ensure that the information we collect goes directly into our project database, removing version controls. And keep tabs on the whole process through an integrated dashboard that lets you sort and review and download your feedback along your engagement journey. And if that wasn't enough, the mobile-friendly and AODA-compliant interfaces ensure that community members can participate and ask questions at any time from any device. But here's where it gets really fun. The data behind your reports has more to tell you than simply rows in a table. Now we can understand what chapters people spend the most time on and which chapters nobody even opens. Going digital allows us these robust analytics to help our projects and our communities. So how we all feeling now? Comfort, clarity, calmness, maybe still a really bit of confusion. Digital adoption isn't just about introducing new tools or new platforms. It is about a profound change it brings to our understanding and our approach to our projects. The transition requires significant thought, strategy, and dedication. It challenges our conventional methods and demands that we evolve. But the results? They speak for themselves. When data flows seamlessly, when stakeholders feel supported, and when collaboration is at the forefront of everything we do, we will experience a newfound sense of comfort in our decisions, clarity in our objectives, and calmness amidst a very complex process. So let's focus on the data, fix the workflows, and by doing so, we not only honor the legacy of our past, but we also set the stage for a more efficient and transformative future. Thank you. Yes, I will. Oh, thank you. I will just say I threw the QR code there. If you have questions that don't get answered, that's my information. Thank you.
That was so wonderful, Raina. Thank you. So next up, we have Beth Williston and Mark McKnight from TRCA, and they'll be going through the planning application review and enforcement system presentation with us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Great, thank you. I'm putting my other hat on now. So before we begin the presentation, I just wanted to introduce Mark. He is the CIO at TRCA, and Mark and I work very closely with this. I also want to explain my casual comment of John can ask whatever he wants. For those that don't know him, John McKenzie is the CEO of TRCA. And he's very, very supportive of this project. Okay. So there's a lot to unpack over the next 20 minutes, and our story begins 15 years ago. For everyone in this room, whether you were a student, a practitioner, or a kid who saw their parents' office 20 years or so ago, I think we can all agree on one thing. There was a lot of paper. Things were no different for us at TRCA. It was paper everywhere. But in the business world, there were lots of technology advances. Computers were becoming savvier. Tablets and smart screens existed. They were super expensive, but they existed. Collaborative and interactive digital reviews were things that we dreamt of. So in 2008, we began our shift. The shift actually all started with a presentation that I gave back then to management, planners, and technical review staff, and it was entitled, Just Imagine. We started small. We started with our computers. We moved to laptops for all planning and technical staff. Then we gave our administrators laptops too. We started upgrading these laptops every 3 years. They stayed under warranty, and we eliminated the downtime of broken machines. The older machines were repurposed within the company to others, like our field or education staff, who were not so heavily reliant on state-of-the-art machines. Over time, tablets became more cost-effective, and we actually started to buy tablets instead of laptops for planning and technical staff, so they could do interactive markups in their reviews. We reprogrammed our internal systems allow for another way of allowing for an interactive review to occur. It was rudimentary at best, but we were learning. We had dual monitors, and at least one was huge, so we could see the plans and reports. We could work from home. We had more and more digital files only. So when COVID hit and we were all sent home for what we thought was going to be about 2 weeks, we did just that. And within a month, we were 100% digital review. Paper was gone from the plan review process. But we also knew that this was not good enough. We had the machines that we needed. Staff were working in virtual environments. We could review the same documents, but not at the same time. There was a lot of duplicated data entry. It was better than it was, but certainly nowhere near good enough. We knew that we needed a new and integrated system. We knew we needed pairs. Pairs started with identifying ways to improve efficiencies in TRCA's planning application, review, and enforcement system and processes. Our goal was to improve client and staff user experience, improve client communications, and to improve transparency and reporting. We knew that TRCA's method for processing plans and permits was inefficient and provided poor user experience. Staff had to manage their files using a multitude of different filing, tracking, and circulation tools, and communication was largely through emails. There was also inefficiency in client communications, which result in emails from both clients and consultants, often on the same issue, as well as phone calls and meetings with multiple staff from across the organization. So, what is PAIRS? PAIRS is a tool that will significantly reduce inefficiencies in TRCA's planning process. It will run off a cloud web-based platform purchased from a vendor platform that is designed to improve user experience. It will provide a one-stop shop for all planning and permitting functions. And for those of you who don't know, as you mentioned we are a regulator. So there's definitely some synergies. So in a nutshell, PAIRS will transform our existing processes provide new efficiencies for our staff and clients and allow for time-sensitive reporting. For the next couple of slides, I will go into a bit more detail about our research, funding, and approvals. I will talk about our implementation timeline. Mark will then take over the presentation to discuss the implementation phase, and then I will be back to talk about our testing, training, launch, and next steps. Okay. Our pairs research started in 2017 when we went out to municipal partners to see their systems. We learned a lot, from what works or doesn't work, to what our timeline could be, and how much such a system could cost us. We knew that we didn't have enough money saved, so we went to our leadership, John and team, and then to our board of directors to request funding from our reserves. We were approved to the tune of $1.8 million. We had a strict payback schedule, and we agreed to use revenues that were generated through our fee-for-service plan review services. Our board is very supportive of this project. Most of our members are municipal councillors, so of course one of their first questions was, how can we link to municipal systems? More to come on that later. We also developed an internal project team and an external governance team to help guide our needs, wants, and preferred solution. TRCA's planning, application, review, and enforcement processes are intricate. There are many unique processes that apply strictly to conservation authorities and then again to TRCA. We knew that the solution must support a variable amount of complex business processes that are modifiable and flexible. At a minimum, business processes implemented in pairs must allow for integrations with systems. Checklists for completeness must be available on each step as required, and task assignments to users of pairs. Each step of the process must have the ability to be overridden as required. In all, there is an estimated 50 business processes that will be required as part of the pairs implementation. We worked hard to find a vendor who could meet our needs, and about a year ago, we hired Tyler Technologies to deliver our new pairs platform. And now I will turn it over to Mark, who will go over the details of our implementation phase.
Great. Thanks, Beth. Just a little bit on the implementation path that we take. So obviously we selected Tyler Technologies as our vendor partner for their solution. Anyone familiar with Energov? That's the new product line that they've got. Their approach was a pretty typical implementation structure, kind of planning, design, build, and deployment structure. Our planning kicked off last October, just in the early fall, really just getting things framed up for what the whole this year was going to look like. Right through this winter and spring was really built around our training and developing our staff to get ready for the project, learning all the techniques for doing documentation around the requirements to translate things into the new system. And as Beth mentioned, all of this upfront work that we did on process documentation and understanding what our current state was really paid off huge in this phase, or this earlier phase of the project for us. Because not only did it help us really understand what we were trying to accomplish and translate into the system, but it was also a great vehicle for us to help educate the consulting partner on this. We're not a typical municipality structure. We're not doing building permits. We're not doing elevator inspections and things like that. We have a whole different kind of line of business that they're not generally familiar with. So getting them up to speed on what we're all about was huge for us. Currently, we're in the middle of all of our solution preparation. We're finishing our system design work, as well as the development of all of our workflows and building each of our kind of work classes and plan types into the system to encompass our entire business. We're doing heavy work right now all out of our enforcement processes, and this is something they have a good foundation on, but because of our situation and the kind of things that we deal with, it's a little bit unique situation that we're having to transform. We're working through data conversion, which has been a big challenge. We have a legacy Lotus Note system that is really document driven, has a ton of information, but not structured in the way that we need for a more relational system going forward. So we've been spending a lot of time getting that prepped. And now we're kind of headlong into our first data upload to take a look at and see how this legacy transformation's going to look. We're getting ready for testing. We've just finished training all of our users to do heads down testing, and it kicked off today. And next week, we're going to train all of our trainers that are going to go out to the divisions and help get people ready for the system in the new year. Next couple of slides, I'm just going to dive a little bit deeper in a couple of the features of the system. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. So designing and development, as I said, we're in the middle of setting up all of those workflow steps and tasks to help organize work in the new systems. We're defining all of the review teams and collaboration teams in the system so that we can share work seamlessly across the group. So we're not firing emails at each other and waiting for responses. Everyone's working on the exact same file at the exact same time. And we're going to be building automation rules and other processes to help push work and update tasks and keep people informed of where things are in a process. We've integrated our GIS, and we also our screening tools that we've been relying on for years to help support the processes, as well as we're building collaboration tools through the e-review module within the Tyler system, as well as Bluebeam Studio Prime. We're also working with our marketing communications team to build an applicant portal. And we're actually looking at that as larger than just being a planning and permitting solution, an access point for our organization. There's features that we can deploy to help support work requests and incident reporting across a number of our business units. So we're trying to take a more fulsome approach to that design. And we're also spending a lot of time developing custom reports, letters, and dashboards to help with how we're going to be reporting on work going forward. Integrations, I've mentioned GIS, but that's not the only integration we're going to be connecting to. We're also going to be connecting to our Laserfish system for corporate records management. So once files are closed, we can move all of the permanent records over into our corporate record system for longer term management. We're doing online payments and e-commerce integrations, which is typical for a lot of organizations now, but that's going to be a jump forward for us for there. In the future, we want to look at time management through our Dayforce, HR, payroll systems, and do more time utilization analysis. And we're doing a lot more forms development and building other elements to the future. And we have a vision of doing more seamless integration to our municipal partners and other agencies to start moving work along interagency as well. All right, just a quick note on the applicant portal. I mentioned that we're trying to take a broader approach to this, but this is really going to be a focal point for how all of the applicants will reach our services. We've only just, over the last week, come across a new feature that we're going to be also incorporating into the solution, which is more of a decision support tool, that you don't have to be a planning expert, you don't have to understand our processes. It'll actually guide people online through all the steps and link people to the forms and the information they need to submit, and just make it a much easier process for everybody without having to make a call or research things on our website. The whole portal is going to allow us to collaborate together. And one question we got in a past presentation on this was whether this would just create a big digital wall for our partners as they're trying to work with us. And that's not the case. Our workflows and our processes are all built around all of those engagement stages, and we want to keep it interactive with all of the clients that are working with us, and not just use this as a way to, well, just share documents, you don't have to talk to us anymore. That's not the approach we're taking. It'll allow us to share the documents and drawings, work on things through Bluebeam, and track the status of the applications and do communications through that, and then ultimately process invoices and online payments. Okay. Last slide for me. So just on the reporting. So the Tyler system comes with a fairly robust dashboard to keep people on task and on target for all of the work that they're doing. We're going to be enhancing that with all of our custom letters and reports, but we're also going to be building a larger, more of an SLA dashboard as well that will allow us to make sure we're on track with all the commitments we've got with our partners as well, and make sure that we're seeing things in a holistic view, not just kind of task by task as well. All right, I'm going to turn it back to Beth, and she's going to continue on with the rest of the project that we're doing.
And I'm going to end with a fun story, so pay attention. Okay. The right slide. After a very busy 9 months of development, last week we started testing pairs. We have staff from across the organization working together, put in projects, and work them through the review process from cradle to grave. Included in our testing phase are environmental assessments and Planning Act review, permit review, and also our internal project reviews. Testers include our planners, administrators, enforcement officers, and technical staff from our water resources, geotechnical, hydro-G, planning ecology, and property departments, as well as staff from our financial services team. Staff are from all levels, from administrators, junior to senior planners, technical staff, and senior managers. We need to cover all disciplines and all functions. Staff have about a month to test the system. Glitches, missing information, and other issues will be reported to both Tyler and our internal project manager, both of whom will be able to make the corrections needed. Again, Tyler staff will be guiding the process. Separate from pairs, we have another team of more junior staff from across the organization being trained on and testing Bluebeam Studio Prime. Yes, we're still a PDF environment. We'll get there. You're leading to my story. Okay. We will be using Bluebeam as part of pairs, as it is Bluebeam that will allow for online collaboration reviews between staff and clients alike. We have also begun to develop the training plans. We are going to use a train the trainers approach. As Mark mentioned, next week, staff are coming together again from across the organization to learn how to develop these training plans. These staff, broken into the same groups as before, largely consistent of more senior staff as well as administrators. During both the prescribed sessions as well as on their own through December, the training plans will be completed by these staff. Again, Tyler will be guiding the process. And again, separate from pairs, our Bluebeam testing team will also be developing the staff training plan. At all TRCA staff who will be using pairs, whether it be an occasional use or an everyday requirement, will be trained in January. Staff who back in November learned how to be trainers and then developed these same training plans in November and December will be training their teams. Also in January, our Bluebeam trainers will train their teams. It will be intense, but given that this vision has taken 16 years, from 2008 to 2024, to see it all through, it will be worthy of a great celebration. Okay. It's pretty hard to launch a complete, new, integrative, and innovative system without planning our communications. Thankfully, we have a great team at TRCA who is assisting us. The launch will coincide with a revamped policy planning and permits webpage. The Civic Access portal will be there and will be available for client use. So will our policies, checklists, guidelines, regulation mapping, tools, and the list goes on. We will be going live January 31st, but the launch will be gentle. We want to give our staff a chance to become familiar and efficient. We are also know that there may be a few more glitches to work out before our formal client launch later this spring or next spring. But in the meantime, there are a few things that will occur. First, clients can apply online, but they will not be required to do so. Staff will input new applications and work with clients regarding submissions or resubmissions. Second, we will reinstitute our external governance team, which includes municipalities, Build, Metrolinx, and AECOM. Perfect. And we'll work with them to test the system before our formal launch. We'll correct the glitches as we go. We will also work with our external guidance on training. We will also work on our external guidance and training documents at that time. In the spring, we are planning to rip off the final Band-Aid and launch the final system. But pairs will not end with that final launch. Some things we have planned for PAIRS Phase 2.0 are enhanced integrations with our other systems, including our Laserfish records management system, our Business World financial system, and our Dayforce time management system. There will be opportunities to enhance GIS integration, as well as to automate production of our screening maps. And finally, but arguably most importantly, we will begin to develop a plan for integrating with our municipal partner systems, agency systems such as Metrolinx, and maybe even something with Build. So there's my fun story. What you might not even know, 6 years ago, do you remember Carl Van Kessel? So Carl came to TRCA when he was with AECOM. He said, Beth, our former CIO was with me, we're going to develop this great new system. We want to talk to you about it. We had a great conversation, but we agreed. We were beginning ours, you were beginning theirs. At some point, the two should come together again. I think it came together, or it's going to. So that's just a fun story of, small world, and this was not planned, for the record. So we have come a long way over the past few decades. As we move forward, I suspect we will continue to evolve to heights never imagined. So on behalf of Mark and myself, thank you for your time. You want us to sit in here?
Yeah. Come near the microphone. So I'm going to share a full circle moment as well as you were speaking, Beth. No. So 16 years ago, I was a co-op student at TRCA, and I sat at Beth's desk on Fridays when she was off with her kids, starting flexible work. And I used to review those paper files that Sharon would pass over to me, and I learned a lot. So I feel like it's really full circle to see both you here talking about transitioning from that process to today. So anyway,
that's a fun story.
Lots of fun stories related to data. Questions for the folks that have, great. Do we have someone with the microphone? Just to your right.
Thanks for your presentations. They were awesome and exciting stuff for me to take away for sure. But one of the things that popped in my head is how you accommodate people who have barriers to adopting technology. So I think a lot of people immediately think, I don't want to say seniors, the more experienced people in our society that just haven't fully adopted technology. Or a big thing, I work for Grand River Conservation. Another big community for us is the Mennonite community. We're constantly having to accommodate them, and I think we have great success. But how do you foresee accommodating groups like that in this digital transformation of your tools?
That's a great question.
Sure. I would start by saying nothing should come before true community engagement, and that digital technology needs to be leveraged where appropriate. It needs to be leveraged slowly and correctly. You guys, kudos to you guys, due diligence on how you've implemented the technology, gold stars, guys. But it really comes down to a case-by-case use of the project, of the community. There is only so much we can do with technology when we are looking at our phones in an area that has no Wi-Fi. Right? There are decisions that we can make, that we can truncate the information on the platform so that it loads more effectively. You get rid of all of the GIS, you start with the image, you start with really simple text. But it is a challenge that I suspect someday we will overcome, just as the same way, someday we'll overcome the fact that not everyone has clean water. But eventually, today we're not there. Today we're just starting. Yeah.
I think I can add from the regulator's perspective. So my job in environmental assessments is I work largely with practitioners, such as yourselves, and you are, digitally competent. And so the files are available, you can submit. But when we're talking about, the regular people who our development planning team deals with, what we've always had is a walk-in counter where people can come in, they could talk to us, then we can have meetings in the face-to-face. Before COVID, that walk-in counter would have sometimes lineups. Sometimes we would need multiple planners serving the different clients that came in. Today, we might have nobody, we might have one or two, maybe three, but it's significantly reduced from what it was. But if we get a client that comes in that has no idea how to use a computer, then we can either walk them through it or we can accept paper. We're never going to, be that force that says you must do that, because there's always somebody that can't. But I'm going to use an interesting, question to you. I'm putting my conference chair hat on right now. Today we didn't print any programs. We don't even have any behind. Did anybody miss them? The world's changing. So we're going to go on that optimistic note, but be prepared for the other.
Yep. I'd only add that, like Beth said, I think you always have to commit to a multi-channel environment, so you can't exclude people. So like she said, we're always going to have the situation where people will need to come in and have more hands-on support to get through the processes. So that won't go away, but the rest of the transition definitely just feeds into the efficiencies that we're trying to build and that collaboration. Internally, transitioning staff to the new system, there's a soft touch that has to happen just for those that will struggle a little bit more. But the engagement we've had through the processes has been good, because we've been talking about our manual processes and what we're locked into with our Lotus Note system. And I see John in the back. I think he's made it a condition of my job to get rid of Lotus Notes. So we actually have we have a motivated workforce to get rid of it. But people have highlighted some really unique situations that we've taken back into the project, because they don't bubble up when you're talking about the typical implementations, right? It only comes into unique spots where you encounter these situations once or twice. So getting that knowledge back out and walking through how you deal with it is actually helping with their transition as well.
Great. Anybody else want to put do we have the microphone? Just right over here. Thanks, Dorothy. Oh.
Yeah. Thanks for two great presentations, really exciting work. I'm wondering about your thoughts on the other platforms that are out there and the multitude of sources of data that could be used in these processes that could be considered, not just the proponent-produced data or other specific practitioner-produced data, not practitioner, I mean proponent-produced data. What's the interoperability, I guess, of your systems? How do you plan to, or do you plan to integrate those other sources of data that should also inform these processes, and vice versa? How much could those other platforms surface the information that you're providing through your platforms?
Right. So I guess two things. I mean, the system itself is flexible and can accommodate a lot of different formats of information, different document types, other ways for people to submit information into the system. So it doesn't need to exclude groups that are using other technologies. We're definitely going to be encouraging collaboration through Bluebeam, which would be PDF for most part, but we definitely have something that's flexible, and we're going to be building integrations through APIs to other solutions that will help support the workflows that we need and transform information. It's definitely going to be a challenge as we look outside and want to integrate to our municipal partners and move files across agencies. Everybody has gone their own direction with their systems. So it's not just a matter of we publish an API and suddenly everyone integrates in. We have to do this really group by group to kind of focus how we want to present that information and make that process flow. So it's more than the technology. It's going to be the hands-on work with each of the cities and regions that we're working with.
Yeah, and from our perspective, AECOM is an engineering, architecture, construction firm, and so when we went about trying to build a software or a platform, we thought about our own needs first. And so the back end of Plan Engage, while it may look like just a planning platform, we can integrate Equus and Leapfrog and, Open Ground and ACC and all of these digital platforms that we use in the industry, because that's what's important to us. It's making sure that we can streamline the data on our project so that by the time that we're ending up writing our report, we're not figuring out which version of which file we need to be looking at, and that's sort of the look from AECOM's perspective. APIs open the door to everything. Like, it's insane. If you're willing to share your data with us, an API will share our data with you, sort of thing. And you touched on something that's bigger than I think this conference. In my world, data is our biggest resource, and we are getting to the point where we have zero ability to control it. And that's really scary when you think of all the information out there and nobody knows how to get it and nobody knows where it's saved and nobody understands that someone over here is doing the same thing as someone over here. I know AECOM is focusing a lot on our historical data because that's where the value is going forward. If we've already done a project in an area, if we already understand what's in the ground over here, why are we trying to do that again? Just because that was done 40 years ago when I, wasn't with the company when I was a baby, doesn't mean that we shouldn't have access to that information. So that part of your question is, someone answer it, someone invent something that can help us do this, because it's going to be needed.
I think this question is actually quite related to the last one, but I'm wondering how these systems may be interfaced or integrated with like either provincial or federal registries like the ERO, and how do you design it in a way that you're not sort of duplicating the necessary engagement piece?
So from TRCA's perspective right now, I think like everybody else, from whether it's IAC's website or the ERO, we have staff that go in every day and they look for what might be of interest and they download it. And I don't know how we can immediately change that. But if the province and the feds start to develop their own systems, then it goes back to the APIs and we can link. And that would be absolutely the most effective for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if our technology was intended to blend with municipal and planning and permitting infrastructure technology. I think it was to help streamline the efficiencies we see in our projects. And that process is by inviting everybody into one location. And if we need to get to the point where we have to integrate with other, municipalities and whatnot, the fact that it's an AECOM-owned software means that we have the flexibility to do so.
Right.
Anybody else interested? Oh, go ahead, Haley.
Right at the front. Yes, I've got a question I think kind of ties into what you guys have already said as well in terms of, sharing that historical information, having a place to store it, but also keying in some of the things or tying in some of the things that we've already talked about in terms of transparency and whatnot. And I guess my question coming from the other side of that is in data protection and in, certain things at certain points of a project are confidential or you have information that you need to ensure isn't going to be changed by someone else or lost in terms of, making sure that that is protected. So I guess I have a question about that and the methods you guys are using to manage it.
And it's only going to get worse, right? The cybersecurity inclusions in RFPs that we're starting to see are going to start to scare everybody, right? Like this is not this is the path forward. Let's get into it. But on Plan Engage, we can very specifically lock sections based on your username. So and the data, while it sits on AGOL. We preach the best way to do things are to have, the sort of the subgroups. There's the group that everybody gets to see, and then there's the group that actually gets displayed on Plan Engage or through the Esri interface. I would also add that the technology, any technology you use, needs to be flexible enough to allow you to keep it in its native source, but show only what's necessary, right? Like, if you go out into the field and, you know, you're doing an ELC classification and I've got 17 rows and I've got all my field forms, don't upload that, you know, right? But, yeah, right? But the result of that still needs to be identified that it's been done. So it's this really fine balance that we have to take between communicating our data effectively. Just because we have the tools that allow us to show everything doesn't mean we should, just like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree completely with that. I think, you know, obviously all the technical data protections you can layer on or kind of go without saying, but I think a lot of it comes just information governance as a whole and how you're going to build that. So I'd have a plan on how your information governance works. We're continuing to work on that, but you know, the fact that documents and, you know, even including PDFs are effectively open all the time. They're constant editable. Just, you know, it gives my records manager nightmares. So you've got to have a plan on how you're going to fix those artifacts in a final state, preserve them, and that's what we're going to be working on more in the post-implementation picture for pairs specifically, but definitely with the rest of our systems as well.
Yeah, I would go back and I would ask every project that you work on to show me your data management plan. My guess is that a fairly decent percent won't have one.
Did you have another one, Haley? Yeah.
I did, and just a comment too on that, great responses, is even like inversion control. It's as simple as that. It's where's this revision, this date, this date, this date, and keeping track. Again, document control is very important, so yeah, thank you for that. Another kind of related, a little bit more with the accessibility that we touched on is the compatibility. So say, I mean, between different cellular devices and things like that. I know different companies prefer different things, Apple, Android. But even beyond that, the idea of transferring data, if I want to open it on my cell phone and have it on my computer, is that something that these sites and this software will be able to accommodate?
Good ones should. They should all be responsive. They should be having that technology built into their architectures. So that's something that we put into our RFPs as we're looking for solutions. We want to be able to hit these standards. They should all be, you know, accessible, WCAG 2.0, at least AA compliant. You know, obviously even farther with Ontario standards. You know, it should be up to snuff cognitively as well, like plain language. Like all of these factors play into how you present your information. So it all has to work together. But yeah, definitely you have to kind of set some standards of what you're looking for in the market. You don't want to, you know, suddenly get stuck and you're not able to have people have the right user experience.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's another way you're going to lose somebody, right? If you're walking them down this journey and you've crafted this story about the project and the data, and then all of a sudden something doesn't open, you know, that's just as bad as, you know, not doing all of that forefront in the first place. So, yeah.
Great. Let's give our presenters a big round of applause. That was great. Thank you.